Modern institutions often say they want efficiency. They want faster processing, lower costs, streamlined services, better outputs, more productivity. But efficiency is not the same thing as governance. Efficiency asks, how can we achieve this result with fewer resources? Governance asks something deeper. Is this the right result? Is the action justified? Are the categories correct? Have the affected people been understood? Are the constraints legitimate? Is the system preserving the conditions for responsible action? This distinction is central to what the Frankfurt School called instrument reason. Instrumental reason is means-end rationality. It calculates the most efficient means for achieving a given end in itself. That is not wrong. Every functioning institution needs some capacity to calculate, organize, measure, and execute. But the danger begins when instrumental reason becomes dominant, when calculation replaces judgment, and when efficiency becomes the highest value. The Frankfurt School companion defines instrumental rationality as the form of reason concerned with calculating efficient means for stipulated ends, and it warns that critical theory has long been concerned with the domination of society by this form of rationality. The problem is not that institutions use tools. The problem is that tools can begin to define the institution's purpose. The problem is not that governments measure performance. The problem is that measurable performance can replace public value. The problem is not that organizations seek productivity. The problem is that productivity can become detached from human, legal, ethical, and institutional ends. When this happens, a system may become more efficient and less governed at the same time. A call center may process more cases while understanding fewer people. A welfare agency may reduce waiting times while misclassifying need. A school may improve metrics while narrowing education. A hospital may optimize throughput while weakening care. A digital government system may reduce transaction costs while making responsibility harder to locate. An AI system may classify faster than any human institution can interpret. This is why efficiency must pass through admissibility. At PII, governance is not understood as mere action. Governance is a sequence. Signal, constraint, ontology, admissibility, action. A signal must first be interpreted. Constraints must be identified. The issue must be correctly classified. Only then can action become admissible. Efficiency belongs near the end of this sequence. It cannot replace the sequence. It cannot decide the ontology. It cannot establish legitimacy. It cannot determine whether the action is justified. The history of American technology shows how powerful efficiency thinking became scientific management. Associated with Frederick Winslow Taylor, split planning from execution and placed greater control in the hands of management. American Technology Volume notes that Taylor's ideas were applied far beyond the factory and often used to challenge the traditional prerogatives of labor. This is the deeper lesson. Efficiency is never only technical. It redistributes authority. It changes who decides. It changes what counts as knowledge. It changes which forms of judgment are trusted. It changes the meaning of work. It changes the relation between the person and the system. One chapter notes Taylor's claim that, in the future, the system will be first. In that logic, the human factor is treated analytically as part of a mechanical system. That is precisely where governance must intervene. A mature institution should not reject efficiency, but it must subordinate efficiency to justified purpose. It must ask, what is being optimized? Who defined the goal? What has been excluded from measurement? What forms of harm are being normalized? What human judgment has been displaced? What responsibility has been hidden inside the system? And what becomes impossible to say once efficiency becomes the only language? Critical theory warns that when instrumental reason becomes total, meaningful human ends can disappear behind systems of calculation. PI extends this insight into governance architecture. A system is not well governed because it acts quickly. It is not well governed because it reduces cost. It is not well governed because it produces measurable outputs. It is well governed only when action remains justified, constrained, classified, legitimate, and admissible. Efficiency is useful, but efficiency is not governance. Governance begins when a system can explain why its action should be allowed to count as justified action. PII, a discipline, not a trend, a framework, not an opinion. Frameworks turn complexity into admissible decisions.